Something's just come across my desk, John.
It is perhaps the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months. If you
Hello, boys, and welcome to another one of these things. Yesterday, I was on stream, and somebody said to me, "Have you tried OnePageRules Horde Mode?" To which I said no, because that was the truth. But today, I have played OnePageRules Horde Mode, and this is what I thought. First off, I'm very much so a narrative, beer and pretzels style of wargamer. I have been kind of estranged with the actual main 40k system for the last few years. I haven't actually played 40k since 8th edition, which is kind of staggering, I know, for somebody who has a channel mostly about Warhammer. And believe me, in 8th edition, I was quite the avid Warhammer gamer. I even grazed the tournament scene very briefly. But unfortunately, me and 40k, we broke up, I'm afraid, and like every breakup I've ever been through, it wasn't my fault. And ever since that point, I have been attached to the hip to OnePageRules. I've tried some other stuff, Middle-earth strategy battle game, a little bit of interest in Black Powder, and I've been playing a lot of Bolt Action, which is also fantastic, but something particularly caught my eye about this new OnePageRules Horde system. And something that really tickled me was the fact that it is co-op against the AI, which is endlessly fascinating for a tabletop wargame, not something you usually see. So naturally, we were quite excited to give this a go. Now, I absolutely love cooperative games, and I love tactical games, and cooperative games where you have to be tactical. Very, very nice. So my buddy is a Tau player, and I have a little bit of Ultramarines that I'm building up at the minute, and a fairly decent Tyranids force, so there was a pretty natural way that this was going to go. We had a Tau and Space Marine alliance that was pitted against a large Tyranid force. Absolutely classic scenes, nothing out of the usual. Yeah, very fluffy, very nice, very thematic, very narrative. We pretended it was, we were trying to retake some lost part of Macragge that still had some Tyranids on it, and I don't know how accurate that is to the lore in this day and age, but hey, we're a product of our environment, which is 4th edition. But anyway, I just want to talk a little bit about the experience of it and what that was like, and just overall how it went. So to kind of give you a brief synopsis of what it is and how it works and how the actual game itself works. You get yourself 1,000 points each. You and a buddy get yourself whatever you want in that list. You deploy all your guys within about 9 inches of the middle of the table. You've got sporadic objectives around. You roll a little dice to find out at the start of that wave which one is the priority objective, and that one's going to give you more points. This is going to become important later. And then you have your opponents. AI opponents. Every single one of that opponent's units will randomly spawn at one of the table corners, which is assigned to a side of the dice, which every single time you spawn one of their units, you just roll the dice and see which corner it comes in from. Real simple, real nice. The rest of the AI stuff follows a very simple, very intuitive flowchart, which after a few activations we didn't even need to look at again, so that was pretty marvelous. The basic consensus of the way that the enemy force worked was it would just move straight towards the objective, or if you were in the way, it would try to clear you out first, and if it would hit the objective, then it would try to shoot you. It was all pretty much common sense, logical, what you would do in a situation if you were in fact piloting that force. And this really didn't bog the game down at all. In fact, it was much quicker than it would be if it was piloted by a human, because they didn't have to stand there and go, let me consult my rules for a minute. Let me think. Should I go down this flank? Should I go down that flank? Which one of these guys should I shoot first? It was very much so we rolled a dice. That one gets activated. Okay, great. What's it going to do? Well, it's going to move straight to the first objective that's closest to it. Excellent. Is there a guy there that he can shoot? Yeah, he's going to shoot him. Boom, it's done. But that also kind of lent into we could kind of predict what was going to happen. And that was where the tactical element came in. We had to be very conscious about what could potentially pop up where. In the waves. So every single wave was every 3 rounds. You'd have 3 flat rounds, and you try to survive, get your objectives, hold everything down, and then the wave would come on that 4th turn after those 3rd rounds. So you always had to be thinking about, where are we going to have to shift to? Where's the new priority objective going to switch to? We're going to have to move the guys around, consolidate. Also, another cool thing is that after your guys die, you can actually have a chance to buy them back with points, and these points are earned by controlling these objectives at the end of all of these waves. Now, it wasn't a great deal. I think after the first wave we had about 160 points, and these points correlate to the actual point cost of the unit at the start of the game, like what it was to actually purchase when you made your list. So I couldn't even buy back half my Terminator squad. So it wasn't like you know, you're getting to replenish your stuff. You were getting chipped down over time. They've also got a real cool system in there where you get XP. So if one of your units kills another unit or a hero character or a big gribbly or something, it gets 3, 5 or 8 XP, and then you can spend that on a little random upgrade for each unit. So as the game goes on, the individual units can actually get a little bit more powerful, and yeah, that makes for some interesting later game stuff. And it kind of it balances out between you losing your forces, but the guys that are residual, they're probably getting a little buff here and there, and yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Now, one thing I will say, this game kind of takes a little bit of time to play. I think the average runtime for these games is probably going to be about 4 or 5 hours. We are pretty unpracticed, so it took us over 5 hours and we only got halfway through it, but there was a lot of checking the rules, and obviously we had to learn the system initially. If this was something you played a couple times and you were already very well versed with what your army does, very well versed with OPR, and you're playing it quite often, you're probably getting it done in lesser time than that. But honestly, this is the kind of game that you want to spend a long time playing. There's all sorts of tactical choices you can have. There's lots of times where we had to get in a little scrum and be like, oh, what are we going to do about this? Oh, okay, I've got a plan of action here. Why don't we try take this area and hold that bit off, and then you come in. And I love that, because you don't get that in normal war games. You don't get to take someone's ear for a second and have a little talk in the war room as generals. And is that not why we all like wargaming? Is that not why we're all encapsulated by the idea of wargaming? Feeling like a general? I think there's a big overlap between people who like wargaming and people who like strategy battle games and RTS games like Rome Total War, the Total War series, stuff like that. We like to feel like a general, and this felt like we were two allied generals and we were coming up with battle plans on the flies, and it was brilliant. It was really good fun. One thing I would say is be careful that you don't bring the perfect answer for the AI that you're facing. We found that we didn't really try to do this, but we had a lot of fusion rifles, and then I had lots of storm bolters, and we kind of had the exact perfect ratio of the types of weapons that we would need to shoot the targets we were shooting. Like, we were very well geared for it, and it felt sometimes that we were popping things a little bit too easy. So try not to list build against the AI, and treat it more as a how long can we survive, rather than let's turn this into a shooting gallery and take all the best possible weapons for this kind of thing. I mean, it's an inherently narrative fun experience, and yeah, make it fun for yourself. With a few house rules, it could seriously be like absolutely amazing, like to a completely another level. This isn't me saying, oh, you need to house rule or it's not going to be good, but some kind of house rules where perhaps you're trying to move from one end of the board to the other and then get back on the other side, or something like that, like an extraction kind of game mode. I'd like it if they brought out just a couple real simple missions. There was other things in the wording of some of the rules that weren't very clear. I explained earlier on about buying back your units, and you have to get enough points from the objectives to spend it to buy them back, using their points value from the start of the game as the cost. That wasn't quite clear. I think there's really just something to be said about a cooperative game in this day and age. It's just real good fun. I mean, we can get so wrapped up as wargamers in competitiveness of it all, and I think there's something about this hobby that's lost when you take game after game with an ultra competitive mindset, and it's kill or be killed, and you're doing everything to win all the time. Half of the hobby is you sat there trying to figure out the very best mathematical ways of creating these killer lists to wipe people off the board. And I think there's just something about Warhammer that we all kind of forget that it's not ever, and it never really was meant to be that. There's nothing about the hobby really for me that lends towards a hyper competitive kind of game. I mean, we're instinctively playing with these little toys that are represented by a dice and some sheet of numbers, and it's inherently all up to a decent roll, a good bit of luck, and everything else is pretty much just mitigating our chances, and that's really it. So having a game where you're sat there with your buddy and you're coming up with a good plan on the fly, you're having fun. If you're winning together. If you're failing together. And no matter what, and there's no hard feelings when it's you you versus this nebulous AI. So we had a real good fun. We had a little beer and we had just a great little session in all, really. So would I recommend it? Absolutely, wholeheartedly. I'd recommend it to veteran gamers. I'd recommend it to new gamers. I'd recommend it particularly to siblings. If you're younger, of the younger persuasion, and you'll play with your brother or your sister, rather than getting into myriad fist fights over rules and stuff like you would in games of 40k, hop on over, play some Horde mode, have a good time, think a few beers, and yeah. So these rules are completely free, by the way, so you just need to go to the OnePageRules website and go grab them. Go download the file and Bob's your uncle. Go play the game. So we'll definitely be playing it again. It's 100% going to see play on our table. And yeah, I absolutely recommend it to anyone who is interested in a cooperative experience of wargaming. OnePageRules in and of itself is so easy to learn that this shouldn't be a barrier for you guys to have an amazing cooperative wargaming experience on the tabletop. I have been Relics of War. Thank you very much for joining me for another one of these things. And Relics, gone.